Hey folks, hope you're doing well. I must admit I've had a bit of a break from making videos. I've just been so busy. It's the crazy before Christmas period, December 2025. Trying to reset the motivation levers and make a bit more content. Just been too flat chat at the moment, and I just thought I'd have a bit of a break, but I'll try and keep the momentum coming. I've got a bit of time this morning to maybe put a bit of more valuable content on. Look, I have made a video on this one before, but I did make it in the Sutherland area where it was sort of weedy. I'm here in Mittagong again at this beautiful Mount Gibraltar Reserve, just next to the Mittagong train line, and Mittagong's just back that way. And I just thought I'd give you a look at these guys. This will be version 2 of another video. It's a wattle. They're in flower at the moment. And this is Acacia mearnsii again, but this is in their very beautiful natural habitat. They are, nice and natural here in the Mittagong area, and it's a great place to pick them up. And the one I did in Sutherland, it was probably a good enough video, but it was sort of a weedy occurrence on the edge of a sandstone gully where they don't really belong. Just reinforcing Acacia mearnsii, you'll probably wrestle with it against Acacia parvipinula, maybe Acacia irorata, and maybe Acacia paramitensis. If you're rocked up to these and you're just learning your wattles, you might think it's paramitensis. Just check out what mearnsii can do. This trunk, it would be, I'd say, more than 20 centimeters across. It's probably something like 25. So they're a beautiful tree to 16 meters is reported. I'd just say 15 or so. This is a nice big genuine one. And I don't know, you could see paramitensis that big, but you'd have to be in a pretty advanced copse of it. Paramitensis is flowering now as well. Irorata, yeah, maybe you could see them that big, but you might have to be in a bit of a specialised spot to see them with a trunk like that. And I would argue parvipinula, they don't really get as big as this, not quite as big. They're a bit of a smaller beastie, but here's another trunk about 15, 20 centimetres across. And you can find mearnsii being nice and large. 30 centimetre trunks you can see sometimes. It just depends where you are. And down here in the Wingecarribee, they grow on sort of enriched sandstone soils. They'll get onto the shale as well, and they'll get onto the basalt too. They can naturalise. They happily naturalise the roadsides of highways and all the major roads around here. So they are a bit like Acacia decurrens. They'll happily naturalise around the place. Here's a nice big sturdy one here. Getting up to, something like 10, 12 metres, something like that. And again, this trunk, it's almost... Oh, yeah, I'd say again 25. Nice lichens on it. It's got this tight furrowed bark. And I've been coming to this place for quite a while, and these guys have been here, growing here for at least the last 10 years. They tend to be longer lived than some of the other bipinnates. They can look a bit sickly. They'll have a bit of dieback on them from time to time, and you can see them dying off. But they just tend to me to last a bit longer than paramitensis, and they're a bigger, sturdier tree than paramitensis. Nice and large. I'll just go get some material that we can have a look at. There's some flowers up there. They're in full flower up in that bit. I've lent my pole saw to a mate and I haven't got it back yet. So I'll just have to see what I can get. Acacia mearnsii, the northern limit is said to be around Gosford in New South Wales, or Gosford, Newcastle. Pete's Ridge there, that's meant to be the northern limit. They do extend west into the Blue Mountains. So I think there's records around Katoomba and Springwood. They do naturalise around the place, but the natural range is said to be about as north as of there. And then they come down the tablelands and a bit of the coastal hinterland as well. Down into Victoria, they're very common. They go through sort of the southern half of Victoria very, very commonly, and then they get into East and South Australia, and I think they go as sort of far as Adelaide. I think they're around Adelaide. They might be a bit further west than that. They don't get into Queensland naturally, and they're all through eastern Tasmania. All the Wingecarriby, a little bit of Tasmania in New South Wales. So Tasmania, it has a lot of country that looks like the Southern Highlands of New South Wales. There's a lot of mearnsii there, especially in the eastern half. In Western Australia, it's become a weed. So it's weedy in Western Australia, unfortunately, and it's probably weedy overseas as well, I can imagine, if it's been taken over there. So when you walk up to the foliage, I showed this before. Again, I don't know if sun or shade will work best here. You walk up to the foliage, and one of the things about it is it's got a very glossy appearance. This is one thing I latch onto pretty quickly. The foliage is very glossy, like it's had a little bit of varnish put on top of it, and it sort of reflects the sunlight. I don't tend to see this so much in Paramatensis. Paramatensis is sort of dull, and Irorata is a bit more dull and feathery. Decurrens, it's different. The foliage is more spaced out. Parvipinula, I don't see it really doing this either. It's just got this nice glossy hue to it. That's the first thing about mearnsii. The pinnules are very tightly packed. They're very Paramatensis looking or sort of Parvipinula looking. Don't really have that blue of Parvipinula. They're more glossy green. Just look at the undersides. They're the same sort of, almost the same sort of glossy green as well. Maybe they're a bit duller on the underside. But it doesn't matter where you look, you just get this sort of glossy, and the sunlight is well and truly reflecting off it there. And then we'll just zoom in on the glands. Just zoom in on the glands. Now, the glands of mearnsii, they're a little bit all over the shop, is what I like to describe them as. They're just a little bit everywhere. What we tend to get is a jugary gland that appears a little bit subjugary or interjugary. I'm going to try and demonstrate this. And then you get one or two interjugary glands, which a lot of the time are joined together, or they're what they call confluent. They're joined. Now, what I'm getting here at the moment is these these subjugary hairy glands along this particular leaf anyway. And then I'm just going to look for one or two irregular interjugary glands, which are sometimes joined together. That's what you tend to see a lot of in mearnsii. And it's probably going to make a liar out of me at the moment, but we'll start with this one and at least see what those subjugary glands are doing. They sort of say jugary glands appear in subjugary or interjugary. And I've just got to get those there. And at the moment, I can't get a single interjugary gland. So we're just going to have to get a bit more representation. What I've tried to do here, folks, is just strip off some of the one side of the leaves so we can actually see what's going on. But it's a very hard beastie to zoom in on, and you do need a hand lens. But you can sort of see we've still got those hairy subjugary glands, and then every now and then we've got another we've got an interjugary gland there that's sort of joining the subjugary glands, or it might be joining, there might be two sort of joined together at that sort of subjugary or interjugary level there. That's what you typically get in mearnsii. It's a little bit Parvipinula-like. It's nothing like Irorata. Remember, we don't have this many glands down the leaf. They'll just be at the top. But you sort of get these confluent or joined glands, which sort of appear a bit subjugary or interjugary. And that's what you typically get in mearnsii. They are hairy like Parvipinula. And just hard to get some good representation here at the moment. Just with the glands of Mearnsii, I see a fair bit of variation. And I just have to combine it with the varnish look on the foliage and the size of the tree and just how many trees are in the population and where I am. That all sort of adds to it. Just picked a leaf at random for representation. Just going to try and do these ones as well. Yeah, there we go. It's very different to Paramitensis, what the glands do in Paramitensis. But that's a typical Mearnsii feature there. We just got that joined secondary interjugary gland there, which is will vary, but is sort of very common. You can see there's regular subjugary glands. There's a gland by itself down the bottom of the leaf as well. And that's a typical Mearnsii appearance. So just remember the glossy green leaves. Get them in the sun if you can. Nice and glossy. They're more tightly packed than something like Felicifolia. And the glands are different to Felicifolia. The pinnules are smaller. This one could be called parvipinnular as well, just the size of the pinnules there. To me, just getting onto the small side rather than the larger Decurrens or Felicifolia sort of dimensions. These pinnules, they'd be struggling to hit 5 mil, probably more like 3 mil. And folks, there's plenty of flowering material, but I probably don't need a hell of a lot just to demonstrate the concept. We're in December, they're flowering. Just remember, what have we seen? Decurrens flowers in winter. Paramitensis is flowering now. You might see Irorata flowering now. And I think I got parvipinnular flowering a month or two ago. But I'd say, Mearnsii, it's probably mainly a late spring, summer flower. You get 20 to 40 flowers per head, and the heads can be in these sort of axillary to terminal racemes, or what they call sort of false panicles. So there's not really much helpful about the actual flowering appearance, but they are at the terminals. In all of these regenerating saplings here, and there's a lot of them, the flowers are right at the top. They're right at the top of the plant, so I've got to bend them over to sort of get the flowers. But they're a nice cream colour. They're light cream to sort of pale yellow. They're not the darker gold of Decurrens. They're a very Paramitensis colour. I'd say exactly the same as Paramitensis. And parvipinnular, to me, it's just the cream, the sort of bright cream flowers against the bluey foliage and a smaller tree. That's what gives it to me for that one. This guy, the glossy green foliage with the nice cream flowers. To 40 flowers per head in these guys. And it looks like they might be sort of past their prime. So maybe late November, mid-November would have been the time to see them. Just here some more. I can bend this one right over and you're just getting the flowers clustered there, really close to the branch terminals and in the upper sort of leaf axils. So beautiful plant, Mearnsii. You might ask, would Paramitensis be here or parvipinnular? I don't know this area for having parvipinnular. Paramitensis, yep, I might have to look out for it. You don't get a lot of it here in this Mittagong area, but it could be. We're on the side of a railway corridor, so who knows what the hell's here. Everything could have naturalised. If I thought I had Paramitensis here and I was doing plots, I might just keep checking the Mearnsii all through the day. Look, if I've got a day of doing floristic plots, every plot I do, I will have a quick look at the glands on the bipinnate wattles, because it could just be Irorata or it could just be Paramitensis. I'll have a look with a hand lens every single time and just see what's going on here along the raka. So I do it again and again and again. It just becomes a repetitive thing. And it doesn't matter how many times a day you do it. In every sort of flora plot you set up, you should just have a quick check of what those glands are doing. And that leads me away from Paramatensis straight away, that one there. And I might be down to mearnsii and Parvipinula. And it's that glossy green foliage that's going to help me. Plus, if I'm getting really big trees, if I'm getting some nice 30 centimetre, 20 centimetre trunked bipinnates, I'm going to start thinking mearnsii pretty quickly. So it's just a matter of putting all that together. But again, I say, if you can get to this Mount Gibraltar Reserve Mittagong, a nice track goes right up to the top there. It's a beautiful place to hang out. I made a video here on a eucalyptus alata one day with these big tall alatas which grow here. It's a beautiful reserve to come and check out.